Libby.
Oh, no. Oh,
That's minor compared to some of the other ones, so.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like walking, so you're totally here for this one.
Okay.
I will say that the arrangement of-
I think Jay is coming, but we haven't heard any different.
Yeah, that's,
You ever been to a legislative committee? Alfred?
you know that we built a new space and we're gonna outfit it differently, right?
This could be outfitted by removing this table and having everybody on the.
Okay, somehow I lost my-
Yep,
Real quick and easy fix.
yep, that's why I sit on the other side, but for this meeting, I sit here because there's usually more people. I don't know, do we not have humans anymore?
Only,
Like,
Jay's
Oh,
the
Jay.
one left to come. And
Recording is on if you want to start, or
Oh,
I always feel, I like this vantage point, except for me, sometimes I can't see the hands up.
Yeah, I just put what I usually do is the minutes and the.
Yeah.
But no, I don't like it
I
when
had printed
speakers speak
everything off.
on this
And I
side
have the
either.
agenda. It's probably sitting at home.
I like to see
Real
the
easy.
speaker up there.
I got last month's agenda.
get rid of this closest table. And have a small table in front for the witness to speak at, just like they do in committee of the legislature. That way, everyone faces each other.
Yeah.
the new space will, yeah.
I was gonna say, we'll be in the new space before too long. Right, Kate?
What?
We'll be in the new space before too long.
The audio visual package is very expensive.
Oh,
Okay.
So, yeah, I can give that as my select board report. We're not there yet, though, right? I will answer that, but I'll answer it once.
So let's open the meeting. Jay is coming, but I think it's started.
Yes.
We'll call the meeting to order at 7:07. And we don't have anyone online.
yeah.
So we can, just, we don't have to say we're here, you can just record us, right?
Got it, yeah.
And Jay, I do think is coming. I don't know, do you have something you don't want, you're not gonna talk right now, are you, Craig?
I wasn't expecting it.
No. That's why I like public comments farther down.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's approve the minutes of February 6th. I hear a motion to put them on the table.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Anyone have any yeah, I read them for the 2 copies, so you should.
Well, good to me.
There, that's fine.
On line 243, I think you probably meant that to be the CC.
Oh, yeah. You hang out with select board too much, my friend.
yes, I do.
Yeah, and
Not that
on
we don't have-
246, that was a group thing. I'm not sure why Ed's name's up there.
246.
Yeah, yeah, you don't need my name.
Yeah.
I
That
did-
was something
actually,
we all,
I did see that.
okay.
But thanks for giving me credit. Yes.
Other than that, I don't,
Well, you did.
they were
speak.
I did.
excellent as usual. Brittany,
Both amendments made.
do I hear a motion?
The only comment I wanted to say,
Yeah.
and not changing it at all, is when you announced that Mr. Rippey left the meeting at 9:04. I just don't want anyone to think that I was angry and I left.
No.
My battery in the computer ran out.
Yeah, that's just a normal thing. I think hopefully humans will make the right
When
assumption.
were you gonna comment on that one? Like, nobody's gonna like it.
The only, the
Mr.
major,
Rippy stomped out it.
Yeah.
Mr. Rippey was being a jerk.
the main reason though is because we have to record it and then we still had a quorum. Whereas if we lost a
Yeah.
couple people, we lose our quorum.
Right.
And if that was gonna happen.
Nope,
that was
we're
gonna
good.
happen,
We're
I
good.
could have just charged plugged my battery in.
We really needed to be done at that point.
You weren't
Tired.
feeling well that night.
I was.
Thank you for not sharing.
Yes.
Speaking of that, I noticed if anyone looked at the new town report?
No, I haven't, no. no.
Your name didn't get in there. I don't know why.
Oh,
Next year I'll ask to proofread because you're not listed under the conservation.
I'm very sorry. Yeah, we should tell that.
Pardon me.
Oh, boy. Whoops. I'm very sorry. I guess we better tell downtown too. Is it? he's correctly on the website as far as I know.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I know I did see the website.
Cause I was
It's fine.
looking to make sure the other day, I was like, do we have people listed? I thought we had.
And I've been.
Yeah, because Carol has been.
We're juggling an awful lot of balls and sometimes some of them drop and that's
I
not
guess
good.
I accidentally left
Very,
left it home, but no, he isn't there.
mine's in the car.
Yeah.
Actually, if Carol's left, right,
We have a
But
seat.
that
don't we
wasn't,
have an opening?
So
We
we've
do.
got an opening, yeah.
yeah,
I don't think I saw that on,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have not read, I confess to not having read the latest newsletter for the town.
I think it
no,
was,
I just thinking.
I think it was the
Was it-
latest.
was it?
news.
Okay.
I let Elisa know and I let Carol know that she needed to officially do that. And she has done that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no, and we did accept Carol's resignation with regret.
yes, last meeting.
Yeah. That was a bummer.
Yeah.
No, sorry, did you need a motion to
To,
approve as amended?
yes.
Okay, I make my motion, we approve the minutes as amended.
Okay, second.
Okay. So the next thing is on the meeting is,
So wait, you wanna vote?
Point of vote.
oh, yes,
We don't have to
All
do
in-
roll call, but.
all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
to read the minutes if you say your votes.
Next, thing here is the select board report.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
That's me.
Not 2 meetings since then.
I'm gonna
And,
actually,
February 18th was quite a meeting.
they've both been very long meetings.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Shirley is a champion of sticking out. For the select board meetings, if you ever want to hang out with us, we would love to have you. Bear with me. I'm gonna go down, because 2 meetings ago, I'm not even sure I can.
I actually brought the minutes of that meeting.
Oh, that's so funny. You're so good. All right. Well, maybe you can remind me the key topics because I can do.
Well, the
yesterday.
big topic was, a lot of people came about the Shaker Bridge.
Oh, that was the last meeting. Okay. Yeah, the most
February
recent.
18th.
Was it February 18th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
February
God.
18th.
They're mixing together in my mind. Yes. And,
You want?
we-
to scan?
yeah, thank you. Boy, it is all mixing together. I really have had a very rough week. I forgot the word grant when I went to make a motion on Monday. It's not pretty. Okay, yeah, really excited. That's right. We had the police awards ceremony. So one of the things we've changed as a practice in this town is that we have started doing advancements and certificates of merit publicly for our first responders, and also as people advance in their career. So say somebody goes out and they take I think I'm gonna pick like a DPW road scholar. I'm gonna be wrong. But you do this work, you get a certificate. So, but it was pretty excited. We had 2 this time. Officer Crate for some investigative work that solved a case. There was some ongoing vandalism and a routine traffic stop, unrelated traffic stop, saw something that connected it to the case. Made that connection, was able to put an end to that. So that's
great.
really well
Wow.
appreciated. And then another one is really, and you guys may have seen it on the news. I think that Dairy Twirl, which was a popular ice cream place in Lebanon, burned.
Yeah.
And there were people trapped in the house on the roof. The first person on the scene was our police officer because he lived right up the road. He heard the call. He was off duty. He went right down and he helped get those people off the roof. So he was
Nice.
awarded a certificate of merit.
That's
So-
heroic stuff.
Yep, and I think it's really important, and I'm very glad that they're doing these acknowledgements in public because we don't say thank you and acknowledge. We hear a lot of bad things in the news, and it's not that they don't happen, and it's not to offset or put them down, but these are things that are being done that are really community policing oriented by our officers to keep us safe. So, we had 2 public hearings, which were very long. One is the phase 2 of the water improvement project, and I think has particular pertinence to conservation because phase 2 is the next major phase, obviously, because we just did phase 1. We're almost finished with phase 1. We did a water asset management planning study. So these are not just random, we didn't have somebody in town just make this up. We had a professional company come in and do it. I know consultants are like a loaded thing, right, like IU Consulting, but we had an engineering firm do this work. We got a grant to engage the engineering firm, and they laid these steps out for us. So this is the next round of potential funding that we're going after. In order to do that, and in order to put it on the warrant, which you will see when you go to vote, because you're all gonna go vote next Tuesday, and then you're coming with me Saturday, remember? So we have to have a public hearing, and that explains it. So Jim Taylor explained for people what the next phase looked like. We've put in a new, we have a Marsh Well as one of the names of our wells, and then we're putting Marsh Well 2. And so part of phase 2 is to connect that. And then he did a little overview of the recent breaks because, it's very wasteful. It's wasteful of water to have, obviously it going out. It's a major impact on our system. It's not good for the environment. And we have a lot of 1903 pipes still that we are replacing. The first time I heard that when I was new on the select board, I thought they said 1930, which wasn't good. And then I literally fell out of my chair. So,
Old as the lot, Whitney Hall.
yeah, it is. So, they're long overdue. They are
Not lead
breaking.
pipes, are they?
They are not. They are old iron pipes. Sometimes they cut them open and they find that instead of being this big inside, they're now this big.
Mhm.
And so it's a proactive, it's not truly proactive because we would have gotten this done a long time ago. It is less reactive. We're trying to move to a proactive phase where we are planning and maintaining the future of our water system and also obviously our, on the flip side, our septic. So we applied to the state revolving fund, and for a lot more money than they wanted to give us. But we did in the end place 10 out of 100+ applicants, and they typically fund around 20. So we're very, I think we're on the short list of 18. I think we are, since we're 10th, it's looking like we're going to get the package that would reduce it. It's 50% principal forgiveness loan. So if you're not familiar with principal forgiveness, it means you pay some of the interest that starts to accrue initially on the project, depending on how long it takes. So you might have a small amount of interest that's harder to calculate and for me to quantify. Somebody who has more time could do that forecast, but 50% is pretty awesome on $2.9 million. So we're hoping the public will consider supporting that. We know it's a big investment. In the future. And then we're working on finding grants to cover the other costs. There's also, you can always read through with federal grants, and we know that we're trying to do our due diligence and be careful about, is it promised? Is it going to be deliverable? Is it going to pay out? So we have an eye on that. Usually with these type of loans, the state of New Hampshire already has the money.
Mhm.
So that means there's somebody, a live human still to cut the check, right? And so we're looking at some of that. But it sounded like that money was already within the state of New Hampshire. And then this will be for the second third of those 1903 pipes. And obviously if they have a major break before then, they could pivot, but they did target these for a reason. And they're not necessarily the oldest. Not all of them are the oldest pipes, but they are in the areas that would compromise the other areas the most. So we still have another third phase after this. I think the other thing, I don't know if we discussed at this meeting to know, is that sometimes we're allowed to do some in-kind for some of the matches, so they'll look at all creative vehicles to keep the costs down, but the project is what it is.
Lots of times they let you use the in-kind, don't
Yeah.
they?
It depends on the project. So, but this team is very, very good at finding all of those. We did it for the park, we've done it, and the deferred maintenance is really a problem when we know it. So that's gonna be on town meeting. It has to be, because it's a moneyed article that will be voted on Saturday at the in-person session. That was a really long explanation. Does anyone have questions on that one?
That
Sorry.
was my question, is it gonna be someone voting on Saturday?
It is a Saturday vote,
All
yeah.
money ones.
Yeah, all moneyed ones by law in the state of New Hampshire, if you are a town meeting town, have to be on Saturday. Which means you have to come in person. So number two was the watershed asset management plan for Crystal Lake, also very important. These were big public hearings. So there really wasn't any argument on this one, but it is basically explained the continuation of the work being done for the Mascoma watershed with Lebanon, and this is a separate phase for Lebanon.
Because we checked in to see.
Yeah.
Just how much would be done on Crystal, we're supposed to be a part of the Mascoma plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only $100,000
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that isn't much, doesn't go far, so I checked with, Lisa at DES and she got a meeting together for us with the people and said, no, there wouldn't be much spent on. And they said the best thing to do would be to try to get a separate plan for water system. That's where I headed.
Oh, good.
And
And
we
I'm-
need to
I'm
get,
glad to hear it.
but
and
we
I'm-
need to get 3/5 of a paper vote for it to pass. We have to get the town to pass it before we can apply for it. So it's fair,
Yeah.
get your neighbors out there.
Yeah, we're not even allowed to apply without approval, so it
Okay.
is definitely worth, no matter how they feel, asking people to come down. I know last year was 7.5 hours. I'm sorry, we're in the metal chairs again. Bring your comfy chair, bring your pillow, bring snacks, bring some
Well,
cash.
This is early on. What number is this? This is
This,
Yeah,
I can't remember the warrant article number, but I think it's number 2-ish. We've got a few slides
I
before
don't
it.
think I have it, but it's early, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get.
The official number is
Everyone
7.
there.
Thank you.
Yes, people-
Yay.
people leave.
I don't have it.
Yes.
Yeah, because the first
Yep.
5 or 6 are Tuesday.
And then we went through all of the town meeting warrant articles. Well, we have to, anything that's money that, select board has to vote to either recommend or not recommend. So we went through all those. The select board puts most of those articles on, so we recommended all the moneyed articles. So we'd kind of done to put them on if we weren't gonna recommend
Well,
them.
they're all very
Can happen.
important.
They're very important. And I'm certainly, if there's any you guys run into, you don't understand or have questions on, I'm happy to answer them. I can go through them, but you can also watch the video if you'd like. And then the next big item
Are there
was,
some of them that don't affect the tax rate?
there's always some that don't affect the tax rate, because the way New Hampshire law works, like with some housekeeping, so if you establish a fund and you have a little money in it and you basically don't need it anymore, you have to vote to like
Utilize.
establish the fund.
Okay.
And then, like, say you had, like, you said you were gonna use $200,000, I'm not gonna give you the exact number, but just say there's $200,000 left in like the widget fund, and you decided to buy widgets at $200,000 and you found out you had $14 of interest, you have to de-establish the fund. And then say you wanna put that widget fund money in some other account, you have to make a vote. So in this case, the library had money. We voted to apply it to the project in
Mhm.
part as recommended by the trustees.
Okay.
Before town meeting, there's some money left, and so that is being voted to
The interest, yeah.
go towards the project, to go towards the interest of the
That money
project.
had been in there for
Yep.
a long time.
Paid off earlier, right?
And even though we
Yeah,
lost
right.
some that
Yep,
time.
reduce the, to pay it
Yeah.
against the principal.
Mhm.
Yep, and so I hope
Smart.
people will think about supporting that because it makes really financially very good
Oh,
sense.
yeah.
It's a good business move.
And the watershed one should be,
Yeah.
we should not end up having to pay
Yeah.
anything on that anyways. Because this is a technicality to get it approved, DES will pay.
Oh, I forgot the SB2 one. Yeah, sorry. SB2 is a petition warrant article and we have to have a public hearing on it every time it comes up. SB2 is
Mhm.
a different form of town meeting.
That's
Do you
right.
guys, are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
So we have traditional New England town meeting where you have 2 sessions. You have the ballot session on Tuesday and the traditional in-person where you can club your neighbor or hug them, however you'd like. SB2 is paper only. But they have paper only in terms of the voting, but it has a prior deliberative session in which you can change the. I'm gonna get this wrong.
I know, it's
Subject, but not
tricky.
the intent.
Right. It's tricky.
I think you can change the subject, but not the intent or vice versa. Anyways, but it's not, basically it's another mini town meeting, but you don't vote on that day. You vote on the structure of the articles and what you're putting on. So I would say, like, those are your 2 choices. There's gonna be a robust discussion. That takes us to Shaker Boulevard Bridge replacement.
Which is about 2 or 3 pages of.
Lively discussion. Mr. Sanborn was there.
Yes, please come
Yeah,
sit
just
with
so
us,
that-
Craig.
And so I think,
Considering as the chair has invited me, I will.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Observe no procedure. I would not have done that.
so so the Shaker Boulevard Bridge, the Mr. Byatt, who came from New Hampshire DOT, who's an engineer, came and explained the 3 different considerations they made for the bridge, looking at the footings, what would be appropriate, the water flow, and it was very detailed. Got some great questions from the public. A lot of talk about 1-lane bridge versus 2. I was very happy to see it.
Is that up on the board? Or is that something else?
That sure is.
There,
That's what I thought.
that is the
Yep.
plan.
Okay.
Yep,
That's
and
what I
so
thought. I'm looking up there, like, that's it.
a lot of conversations about the, the water flow, wildlife, very good. Walking access and whether we could get it to be 1 lane or 2. The basic feedback is typically the state doesn't like to fund 2 lane bridges because they're worried you're gonna come back and,
Excuse me?
1 lane bridges.
Oh,
They,
you're correcting
yeah,
yourself.
that's one. So 1 lane bridges because they are afraid you're gonna come back and ask them for a 2. I tried and.
Can they take a look at this road?
Yeah.
You know,
So we,
There
and
is-
so I asked Shirley to help, kind of weigh in and Paul
Yeah.
specifically said, look, the Conservation Commission had this discussion and I asked Shirley to speak.
Yeah, I sent him a letter and I spoke that night too.
okay,
And it's- Yeah, cause I think didn't I send you the copy of the letter I wrote to him? But anyways, I think we should write another one.
So basically, I didn't articulate it well in the meeting and I said I didn't, but I was trying to get them to agree at least like, can we paint it as 1 lane? So I had that conversation again with Ed today. We also learned, but they somewhat glossed it over, that the project went from 1 million something to 2 million something, so they had to go back and talk to the state, so they got some work to do.
you
but I-
can cut it back to 1 if you go to 1.
I don't think it, no, you never get that half money, it never works out.
It's not.
And then we'll have to find out, we're on the hook for some of the pre-work and the pre-engineering, that's how the state works when they pay for the bridge. So the question is like, are we gonna be on the hook for a little bit more money? So those questions have to be resolved.
Rob said, I asked Rob about it too, and he said the cost was gonna be 1.8 to 2 million. And we, the town, will be responsible for paying 20% of the engineering cost.
Yep. Yeah, and so 20% of the engineer, and that's what the question was with the engineering cost. I asked Ed that today, and he's just come back from vacation, so I dumped a whole bunch of stuff on. But I think, so it's, that discussion's ongoing, but I think it would behoove us to pay attention. I don't want to scare anybody about costs, but I think just writing again, if you guys want to write again, is absolutely appropriate. And I think you were heard. Craig made some great points too. So about, different ways to do. So I think there was a lot of really robust discussion.
Another, oh yeah, went on, there are many people that lived
Mhm.
there and also that didn't, that contributed.
Mm-hmm.
But they also learned too that Bailey Bridge that's in there now, those are good for 50 years. And it's only been in
That's
there
at least.
12.
At least,
I
yeah.
would like to
Yeah.
interject
It's only been in
that,
there 12.
that particular bridge is not a, World War II relic. Those are made of steel
Mhm.
and they had to be painted.
Yep.
This is a modern one. And I'm not quite sure when it was made, but, every piece is hot dipped galvanized.
Oh, wow.
They last much,
Hmm.
much longer
Yep.
without upkeep. And this is good for at least another 50 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of question was, why is it being replaced?
Why are we doing it?
Well, so it is a temporary bridge. So during Hurricane Irene, the Knox River came up and it took out that area. And the least invasive, fastest way to provide access was this bridge is safe and the 1 lane has, quite coincidentally been, I think, good for the neighborhood and probably good for wildlife. Not great for walkers and sharing necessarily, but it does slow folks down. So those discussions were had. We did not go as a select board or a town looking for funding from the state on this. We did not ask to replace this bridge. They made the offer to us. So I think that's something to know, and
And I wonder though, if this is money they have already.
they do. As far as I understand, well, they had the initial, I don't know if the scope of this project, I wouldn't say it's changed, but
Well, I still.
their estimates are certainly came in
They
much
are.
higher.
Yeah.
Listen to all the people who want a 1 lane bridge
Mhm.
and maybe make a pedestrian
Mhm.
one across next to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the
or attached
questions.
to it.
One of the questions I did ask, and we do need an answer from, Jim can get it, is there are certain parts of New Hampshire law where if you create a pedestrian walkway, like a sidewalk, you have to plow it. So we probably don't want to drive out to do,
Mhm.
right, because that would be very expensive. So how do we?
Well,
Not seeing.
if they-
We can answer that.
No.
If they
No.
put a 1 lane, it will be safe. Anyways, 2 or 3 years ago, I had a friend that was renting a place there in the winter time.
Yeah.
And had a group of us that got us walking almost every day down that road.
Yep.
You have no idea, even in the winter, how many pedestrians there
Oh,
are.
there, I see a lot, yep.
Yeah.
No, I think really, so the question was like, would we be obligated by state law to, if we put a separate pedestrian walkway to plow it? So just things, we've gotta have those, what,
Madam Chair, may I
Yeah.
have the floor?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Um,
Regarding that, let us say that you have a pedestrian walkway there. That would be, shall we say, 5 feet wide. Which, because that is the type that is manufactured to go with that bridge.
The
And
current bridge.
with the current bridge,
Yeah.
yeah, the current bridge, which is not. It is a Bailey inspired bridge, which is manufactured by Acro in the headquarters is in Parsippany, New Jersey. And yes, you have to shovel it. You show me a bridge with sidewalks, it doesn't have to be shoveled. In this case, for the shoveling part of it, you're talking about 5 feet wide, 70 feet long. Let us also point out that the normal practice is a solid deck. If instead of the solid deck, you replace that with a grating, which could be of expanded metal or whatever else is done these days. I've seen some rather useful things, light duty applications, mind you, on wheelchair ramps. What you do with the expanded metal, which is basically little diamonds
Mhm.
with holes between them, and any snow that falls on it, first off, as you use it, it's gonna go through the holes in the river.
Mhm.
Second is, the grating has a finish of black paint that is baked on. Now, what happens when you have sunlight getting onto something that's painted black? The
Melt.
maximum amount of heat is going to go onto that, and it's gonna melt the snow that is right next to it, and so it proceeds. You ain't gonna have to shovel it all that much, but that does not strike me as a terribly big job. Especially if you shovel it after every storm. Which you'd want to do anyway.
It's like our docks on the lake that are made out of that material, that's all the diamonds. And mine have been sitting outside, you know, we pulled them in, they sit outside, it snows, there is no snow on those things. Absolutely, I've never
I
touched them.
think you're adding a lot of complexity and expense, especially if we're on the hook for 20% of the engineering. That I don't think is necessary. I think if you make it wide enough to have a lane for bikes and walking is more than sufficient. And the plowing is gonna take care of that.
that's what I had asked, kind of as a compromise, so we'll
I would
see.
like to point out further, Renee. That. It is only by God's grace or good luck that we haven't had a accident on that bridge so far. There's no physical separation between cars and walkers
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah.
I would also point out that with this design of bridge. What you have is they are intended to take a pedestrian walkway on the outside of either or both trusses that support it. I have been in contact with the regional representative for the manufacturer who has clued me in as to what to look for. I've sent them pictures. I could show you them on my phone. The point is that this particular bridge was designed to take a 5 foot wide pedestrian walkway, which you can take on one side of bridge only. That's all you need. So between that and the fact that it is 12 feet wide, you might replace it in 2 years with something wider, but there's still no physical barrier between the cars and walkers. And although you can snowplow it perhaps easier than you can shovel a 5 foot walkway, still have nothing but the good sense of both parties to keep them separated. If all you do is paint a line that shows where the walker sign is.
Cars are gonna go faster.
They are gonna go faster where they have a wider road and where they don't have to worry about a head-on collision with the oncoming car. That we all know.
But I
This
think-
bridge as it is now has the virtue of being something that slows down the traffic to make it relatively safe. It's worked so far.
Yeah, I think, so those were things that were covered in the meeting. I think what's important, the important takeaways. So the state is gonna engineer a state level bridge. They're not gonna add things we want. So if we wanted to pursue that as a town, that would be have to be something that would come out of our pockets separately, that hanging something off the side of the road. We can't make the state do that. They engineer bridges to their specs. And frankly, we did the Oak Hill Bridge for a fraction of what they would have done for a cost. So I think, you know, this is not a done deal. I'm not saying that they're not doing a nice job, and I certainly understand their specs, but I think it was a really good and robust discussion. If you want to go back and watch it, but certainly if you guys want to weigh in, that's important too. The next item, this was a really long meeting, was 79D, RSA 79D has to do with barn preservation in New Hampshire, and you have the option as a town that you can adopt RSA 79D. And you do not get taxed on the incremental value if you improve your barn on, that's a historic barn under this, you do not get taxed on the difference in value. And it can be through a formula. So there's many towns around us who, including Canaan, Lyme, Lebanon, and who've taken advantage of this. In exchange, you give them a 10-year conservation easement. It is a recorded easement. So that was something, Dan Regan brought it up to the select board, and it had visited Heritage Commission, but the select board, it doesn't make sense when we appoint the Heritage Commission to do the work that they're appointed to do. And so we had kind of a robust list of expectations that we sent back and just said, ask the Heritage Commission, would you take this on? Would you review it? You know, tell us the potential tax impact, tell us how many barns, what's our inventory? You know, can you see them from the road for preserve, right? Like, you know, tell us about the value, because not just the dollar value, but the historic value and the value to, you know, the beauty of this place. So that's gone back to them, along with, I personally asked, and the board agreed that they could also look at 79F. So they're gonna take a look at 79F, has to do with barns for agricultural purposes, but just while you're visiting one, you visit the other. You don't have to make, and they can make a series of recommendations. So they've been given that charge. It sounded like they were excited to do that work. Think, you know, from a conservation standpoint, you know, yes, it's a building, but it's part of something that's been here. These are very old barns. They're not new ones. Citizens Academy is going to be something new. It's going to be starting up. Think of it as like the Enfield TED Talk. We're going to tell you about, I say we, because it's going to be a team effort. There are different members of our town team that are going to be teaching about like things from like, what does DPW do? Like, you could get up and somebody was like, can we drive it? Like, mentioned driving a truck. I'm like, no, you can't drive a truck. You can take your selfie in the truck. But really learning about like, what do we do in the town manager's office? You know, what to expect in a board meeting, like how to join a committee. So just some little like kind of clips and times of really focus on educating, like say 10 to 20 community members at a time, and builds community knowledge and also increase engagement. It's a place we hope that will be exciting for folks. Rob Taylor's taken that on, so look for that coming up. We might, you know, I don't know if we're gonna be asked to do anything. I think right now it's focusing largely within the town manager's office, public works and public safety to start. Downtown parking, so
Excuse me, just that, Greg, I just wanted to let you know, this bridge is under old business, so we'll be going back to talking.
Thank you very much. I was just.
this is the select board report. So downtown parking. So we've had a lot of discussions on parking. It's not super pertinent to conservation slightly, but that was a very lively discussion. So if you have feelings on downtown parking, follow along. But basically also figuring out how we can adequately use what we have and be parking in intended parking spaces. Just in terms of ecology, like if you don't park on the lawn and ruin the existing, you know, green spaces, figure it out. And then, you know, just how to inform people. I think that is the majority of the excitement last time, but wait, there's more because we met Monday. Hang on. Monday. Let me send this back down to you. You don't want me to have it. It will
Thank
disappear
you.
into the.
Well, I got a few notes on it.
Okay, awesome, yeah. So Monday was an equally long one. you guys are gonna be seeing possibly a changeover from enfield.nh.us to enfieldnh.gov because with cybersecurity concerns, there's funding available to help us with a switchover, and there's more security layers to a .gov address. So this is a grant we've applied for. And they will also pay to help us switch over things like our business cards so that our paper goods that we're handing out to facilitate. So that went through and is being applied for. Community nursing, there was a little snafu that turned into bigger stuff. Lebanon's community nurse that was covering Enfield resigned and moved on. And so Lebanon ended their contract with us. We had learned a lot along the way, and I don't know how much you've seen on it, but basically we had to look at what was working for us and what wasn't, decide to continue the program. So they've interviewed a couple nurses to potentially come on. Instead of us paying an outside and having a lot of windshield time, we're looking at a nurse in our community. That's something that we've learned. So hopefully going to be signing with someone to take over the next about 2 years. It's just under 2 years because we'll do a single year contract to the end of the year and then look at the
So we're
12th year.
standalone, not with
Yep.
Lebanon.
Yep, but I think it was a good process, and we're very thankful to the Community Nursing Correct Connection and Kristen Barnes for shepherding that. The timing of the change was inopportune, and especially with school vacation, figuring out the pieces and getting the interviews, but getting back on track. The town clerk's office hours, very robust discussion. The town clerk wants to eliminate the evening hours, and she does not report to the select board or the town manager. She is elected and has decided to do so. So we gave feedback. They said they had no feedback that they needed evening hours. There was feedback in other meetings about it, that people wanted the evening hours to remain. I spoke in favor of them and working class people, but it sounds like it's not going to, they're gonna go to daytime hours. So if you have feelings one way or another, I encourage you to write directly to the town clerk, because she says she never hears from anybody on these, on feedback on that item. So town meeting discussion.
So the evening hours was just 1 day a week anyway.
It's 3 hours. They had 11 and a fraction people, about 585 people come. That's about 10% of our population do the evening hours, but the argument was made that they don't have to do the stuff. They could do it online. You guys can decide whether you feel that that's appropriate. I argued against it. That was
You know,
my
I
personal.
learned after, I think Canaan's open every night, 7.
Mhm.
I heard that Canaan is.
Canaan's open and they have some weekend hours. I explained, I came with some data. Well, I disagree. I came with some data and just explained, I looked at the data they had, but I explained basically the split is most small towns have an evening service. You also tend to be more rural, right? When you're in a small town, so it's harder to get out, and you have rural communities tend to have folks working in factory jobs, and so-
Farther away.
and you're farther away. So, and then cities in like large municipalities tend to not have evening hours. That's roughly the split in New Hampshire. I gave a bunch of examples, but so if you have feelings, you can write to townclerk@enfield.nh.us. I shared mine. I hope if people thought, you can tell me, but if I tell them again, they're just gonna think it's me again. And so it sounded like that was gonna go through. Yeah. So, Whitney Hall grand opening's coming up. We had a big town meeting discussion, as we do every year. We do, like slide prep, all those lovely slides you see. We draw straws to see who's gonna give the presentation. And then we said some solar exemptions, some tax credits, and another donation to the community nursing fund, which is doing really well. So,
When do you think the grand opening is gonna be?
uh,
They're coming up.
well, Shirley, did you guys you met?
So
We haven't met, but.
Oh, I thought you were meeting. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw it at
Monday.
you. Monday.
Yeah. But,
God, I feel like I've
as
lived.
far as I know, that
This week.
that date will work.
Okay, yeah, so we were targeting a date in, end of April, right? Was it
Oh, no, May 3rd.
May? Oh my gosh, May.
Tentative.
Monday, May
Don't make
3rd?
that in-
That's right. I said end of April, no, because none of those work, May 3rd.
Because there may be other things if the elevator isn't working yet.
We were very, very close to having the elevator rolling, guys. It's, I know it's painful. It's not fun for accessibility, but it was a matter of, do you pay to rent
Right.
continually and not
we
give people
did
access to their brand new space? So the library has done a very nice job
We
separately.
did COVID, we learned
Yeah.
how to do that.
Yeah, we can, so we're lumping it. And Ed is absolutely on it. I talked to him today. So we converted our elevator from 2-phase power to 3-phase power. It's more efficient and it makes it run faster.
Yeah. The kids are probably gonna be zooming up and down.
I hope they have a great time because we paid a lot for it. I hope they're very happy. So I think, and that will be exciting. We can send around the date because that's something to be really excited about. An opportunity for conservation I saw while I was in the library, Shirley, is the beautiful window view. I think there's some opportunities to get some native plantings out along that riverbank now that you can really see out and the sunlight comes in. And maybe, in honor of what Carol Wyman had talked about with like the labels and the walk,
Yeah.
maybe really think about getting some of that stuff.
I don't know if you've been in the library yet, but one of the things that really stands out the most is the light. It's so really bright. That wall used to be no windows, on the
Yeah.
outside. Now there are windows there and it's just, you have to go to see.
It's very
Any
good.
discussion on community power? The change they're talking about?
So we've had a couple of presentations on community power. Yep, and that will be going to town meeting, be presented by Energy Committee. Do you have questions? Like I can give you a 2-second answer. They're proposing a slight adder.
I know what they're looking at, and it's like totally contrary to what community power is about. It's like a tax.
So, yeah, and I think
It is.
It's
It's a tax to fund other projects. It's like, don't do it on electricity rates. People go to community power to reduce their rates.
No kidding.
And then you're gonna all of a sudden raise it for adding money for these projects.
So the select board doesn't make a recommendation one way or another on these. When you
Right.
have a committee that brings something up and it's an important discussion and it's pertinent and it's something you really need community input, that's something that we take to town meeting, even though you legally don't necessarily have. I believe that one had to on this, back on this barn, the 79, you don't have to. That's one that can be adopted by the select board. But we said the other night, it makes sense if it's taxation related to send it to the voters. It's just more fair. So to get a more robust discussion. So that will be, I think it'll be a very interesting discussion. I have very mixed feelings on both sides, so I'm looking forward to hearing it. And I think overall, though, that from a conservation standpoint, community power has been fabulous. Like they really are negotiating for us. We're getting a better bang for our buck.
And no, I agree with
Yeah.
that, but you're.
Yeah, no, it's so, and I think it's absolutely appropriate for you to speak at town meeting. I think it's gonna be
Oh, yeah, I
really, really
agree.
interesting. Yeah, we don't typically, I mean, we talk a little bit when we put stuff on, but mostly it's about why we're putting on, like, is this a good discussion to
Sure.
have or
Mhm.
legally do we need to have this discussion? So, yeah, it's gonna be a good, like I said, bring your padded chair. Gonna hang out with us, or you can, yeah, but, yeah, so that's all the excitement I think I have in select board land. That's a lot.
That was a lot.
Oh, there's big
Those-
meetings coming up.
There's a lot of things happening at those, on the agenda at those.
That is, so, sorry I took up such a big portion of your meeting. I've been out a lot of nights, I guess.
So shall we move on? At our last meeting, we mentioned having an information table at town meeting.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and one of the things we wanted to, and I have that on the old business too, but I'll just touch on it. One of the things we could have information there about is the rat, see, what's it called here? It's second generation anticoagulant rodenticides. And I've got contacted that Carol Foss, it was part of the forum. And got a lot of information from her that we could also have out there then, but we could have our maps and other information that, things that we work on.
And you could have a sign up telling them how to apply to be our newest member. Because we need to recruit a new member, so,
Yeah,
I mean, I
Well-
don't have to recruit, but to say to people, maybe you meet somebody who's like really
I think
passionate.
that we should, the word should get out so that people have an opportunity that are interested to apply.
So are you guys gonna do a table? Like, I can tell them you need a table put out for you.
Yeah, well, will anybody be willing to man that table and set it up? We get information together, because I actually have to work as a ballot clerk that
Yeah,
day.
you're good.
I interestingly also have work that day.
But, so are any of you available to help? I imagine Jay might be interested. too.
So this would be like maybe getting there an hour early before
Yeah,
the meeting
and just getting it set up so that when the majority of people come in, they, I don't know if you've noticed, there's generally 2 or 3 different organizations that will have tables out there that
Mhm.
tell about their
Sure, I mean,
organization.
I can do that.
yeah, I will too.
And then you can leave it up, right? You don't have to like
Right.
tear it down and miss the meeting. You leave it up when they have a break.
You're
people
out
can-
there when the people
Mhm.
come in and out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to stay out there.
Yeah,
But,
doesn't mean
you
we
know-
have to stay for the whole meeting. Cause I may. not
Someone
stay
has
for
to
the
take it down eventually.
Yeah, well, I will probably be, after people start, we have to count most of the time too, when people
Yeah.
do the hand vote.
Yeah.
And, no, I'll be definitely will be able to help take it down and so forth, but.
I'm
What
gonna-
do we need to ask Jim to have a table there?
That's what I was asking, because I'll write to them. I'm gonna write to Elisa, because she usually is my person on that stuff. And ask if you guys wanna, so if you're gonna do it, I'll ask if
Yeah.
they can bring us a table.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
DPW brings all our stuff, which is lovely of them. Okay. All right, and I'll CC you, Shirley, so once she says.
What about the material for the table? Are you
Well,
gonna?
we'll use our maps and stuff. Jay has quite a lot of material because, we used for the, farmer's market. And, that's one thing, I've got this under old business too. But I wanted to talk about getting some of these materials printed, for this year. And also other materials that, we want to share about the Conservation Commission and maybe, stormwater runoff and forest and, wildlife, all the things that are all about what we do and discuss.
Mhm.
And try to have as much as possible.
I was gonna ask if under new business or whatever, I could bring something up, but it kind of falls in line with this. The septic plan, the new
Mhm.
septic plan, the every 3 year pumping and the every 6 year inspection. There's, every time you wanna look for who can do the job, who can pump for you or who can do the inspection. You get all this information like from the lakes.
We
the
send
Lakes
out-
Group,
Yeah.
yeah, and you gotta look at this. This printout and this printout. What I would like to do, I printed some of them out.
Mm,
What I would like to do is combine the NHAsh members. There's a nice chart in there. It shows who does pumping,
mhm.
how many of them service Grafton County, and who does inspections.
Right,
And I would like to compile a list of those people that will do Grafton.
Glenn already separated a lot of those because he also asked you to sign up if you wanted to get together for
Yeah.
an inspection.
So do we have a list?
Yeah,
Then can we get that list and have it on our table and offer that as something that we can get out? Because I think it's important.
mhm.
I mean, I pull my hair out looking for this. Fortunately, John Downing can do the inspection. He's the man that put in my septic.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think it feels bad when you go to look at the list, but then you find out it like your neighbor John can do it. I mean, he's
Yeah.
right
Well,
here.
that's what, he said that.
Mhm.
One of the ones, there's some right in our own area.
Yep.
that can-
Yeah.
There's a number.
And yes,
yeah, there's half a dozen of them.
that came
JBC
from,
can.
that came from New
Yep.
Hampshire Lakes. It's a statewide one. Because there's a lot of people, a lot of other lake communities, a lot of communities that are doing
I
this.
think if you guys want to do that as a service, you could say, we can't recommend anybody, but like,
Yeah.
here's some starting point to distill it and make it a little bit easier for you, because certainly having people do that work, protects.
Well, that's what we've been,
Mhm.
that's what we've started, really.
So would you like me to put this thing together or do we already have it?
He's already been working on it. He spent a lot of hours separating the ones that are in the area and that do because it's the inspection that we
Yeah.
can, you can't get someone to come and really do the pumping as a lot in one day because they have to make so many trips.
It's two
to
separate
dump it.
things.
But it's the inspection that would be the best get people together be able to do several, maybe 6 or 8 in a day.
But I'm thinking of a sheet that would have lists that would show people who can do both. I mean,
Mhm.
this NASH thing, it's a chart. And this one says pumping and cleaning.
That came through Black.
It came through black. Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
I wasted a lot of print on that.
Wow, that's amazing. That is the way it went out.
And, well, it doesn't show septic system inspection, SSI.
Yeah, it does. That's too bad. Did yours come through did you see it? Was it in black, Tom? Would you look at
I
it?
did not look at it. Mine,
Oh.
mine was done last year
Yeah,
with we did the inspections as a group
right,
and got.
yeah, and that's what we're, you know, asking people if they want to
Two
sign
hundred
up to
bucks
do
or
that.
250 bucks for inspection.
Yeah, who was that? Was that?
And they were excellent.
Who was that?
Oops.
The name, took them forever to get a report, but they were excellent, very thorough.
Okay.
That was good.
Mhm,
Oh, well, anyway, I will.
Well, why
Yeah.
don't you touch base with, Glenn
Okay,
mhm.
and see where he's at, and maybe he can just provide you with what he has.
yeah.
If it's not done, you can finish it, but I still wanna find out how I'm gonna get the information for the table I gotta set up. That we're gonna set up.
Oh, well, we'll gather it. I'll check and see what Jay has. And, I was waiting till we got to here. I think it will take some money to, make copies of this information. And another thing, and I don't
We
want to
have to
jump all
vote on
over
that,
the
or
place.
just, we have to
Yeah.
vote on that?
Cause, the table's under new business and then, there's information on the rat poison outreach
Mm-hmm.
that
Mhm.
I want to discuss with you. It's really old business. But so, uh, so you'll have stuff to put at it. We have big maps too. that
No,
will-
I think it's great.
It will
Just,
show.
do you want me to come over to your house beforehand? 'Cause I don't know if you're gonna be at the meeting
I'm gonna be at the meeting.
early. Oh, so you'll be,
Check-
but you're gonna
I'll
be tied
checking
up.
people.
Will you be tied up with other stuff?
I will be sure if I have anything I have to bring, I'll get to you before
Right.
that it'll probably be before.
Okay, just let me know and I can come over
Yeah,
and
I
pick it
won't
up.
leave you without any stuff.
No, that's fine. I just wanna make sure we have that. We get there an hour early, we get everything
Oh,
set up.
yeah.
And that, and then if we have to, can we bring it up for a vote now? I put it on the table that we approve an expense of making printouts for this, town meeting.
I want, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Well,
just say
it's
up
on,
to, like $50, you know what I mean? Cause I don't think how many papers like if you just say approve
Okay,
expense
yeah.
for up to X dollars, and that usually gives you what you need. I don't know, I'm
Okay.
just randomly through 50, how many there's, I don't know how many people are coming to town meeting this year, it's a mystery.
Pardon me.
How many came last year?
A lot, but they aren't necessarily gonna, unless
Yeah.
you, cause you can't really mug them in the hallway, it's like, it's not electioneering, but like, obviously you're not mugging.
With
them in
the
hallway, but
SB two,
Discussion's gonna be pretty robust probably, so
I'm
they're
just
gonna have a few hundred people, is it 15 cents a copy? I don't know what it is now.
People, you're lucky if you're 25% are gonna even take anything.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just say up to $100 on copy costs for town meetings. I don't want you to run out of money, but that we
Up
get
to,
Yeah.
good.
up to how much?
100.
100.
Okay.
I'll make that a motion.
So that's in our
I don't
budget?
get in trouble.
Is that coming out of our budget?
Yes.
Okay, and we've got a lot of money.
Yeah, we don't have to spend it. That's the beauty of up to. We'll
Yeah.
write it down.
No, I think this is money well spent, for sure.
Oh, although, are we trying to do like a special kind of copy on something, or is it something the town can just photocopy for us?
Well, it could be, there's, 3 or 4 of them I'd like to do. And, they are color. I think that they should be colored
Do we
to
have a
get
nice,
people's attention.
we have a nice color printer.
You do.
too.
And will the town willing to do copies for us?
I would just stop into the office and ask, because they could probably expense it to our account without you having to drive to West Lebanon or somewhere
It'd
and
probably
save.
be a lot cheaper than going, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can pay for it out.
Yeah, just pop in and just ask them if it's something they could do, and,
Mhm.
cause
Good idea.
each section, each subset of it
Mhm.
has an account for that, so.
Do we have a second for your motion?
I think I can take my, off
I'll
the table,
second
right?
it.
Okay,
Do-
is that-
If it's just photocopies and it's a cheap, I think we'll just expense it.
We need to vote on that.
Yes,
Aye.
I in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm like, I don't think you need it, but yeah.
We have $250 in our miscellaneous account, so
Maybe the town can do it for us.
maybe the town.
I think that, Well, they'll charge our account, but
If they do, I
I
have
think
no
it'll
idea.
be a lot less than me taking
Yeah.
it someplace.
Cause you had, Rob Taylor printed the ones for trunk or treat. Remember?
That's right.
So I think, and he did it on a nice card stock that I'm not kicking around, so, yeah.
Yeah, I got the card stock for him.
Okay.
For it, cause I,
Do you want a kid activity, like a coloring activity? I'm gonna ask, and I didn't ask you yet. You're not right here, okay. I don't know if we're gonna kid wrangle this year or not. It just,
I think, well, yeah, coloring activity.
But
would
you
be
could
good.
have a
Oh,
coloring
I was
activity,
gonna ask you if you do a spring,
scavenger.
hunt,
But do you want to give them a spring scavenger hunt?
yeah.
At town meeting, or would you rather give them
Yeah.
coloring or?
I think probably coloring there if we want to
Yeah.
take their time and give them, at some point, give them a scavenger hunt to take home. But,
Okay, I
that
can,
one-
are you guys okay if I just like make something and throw it over to Shirley? Did you see the one last time? Some of you did. It was,
Oh, it was great. You didn't see, oh,
Is that, it's not on our
I
table.
wish I had one with me.
I think I might have it. Okay, I do.
We've moved on to a different discussion, or is this?
Yeah.
Is this
So
a-
this is your table. This is your table.
This is
I
our
sent
table.
Kate some I found online of scavenger hunts, and oh my God, she turned it into, it was for us, for the Enfield Conservation Commission, and for Halloween.
There you go. You can pass it down the table. So that was our scavenger hunt.
Mhm.
But for the coloring thing, are we gonna be providing crayons or?
They can take it home with them. It depends. I'm not giving anyone crayons unless I found somebody. who
Oh,
wants
so I
to get charged.
misunderstood. I thought this was for them to keep them busy during the town meeting.
Unless you want to have a bunch of kids, you want to be in charge?
No,
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
We're looking for
Significant amount of the
meeting. I think it misses a lot of meeting. It's one of those like.
Tables out at the trunk or treat.
Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate to have it at the meeting, this town meeting.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of the thing that, if we're not providing them,
No, I think sometimes we do childcare and stuff. Do you want to send that back to me?
Yeah.
My other half.
did you see it, Jean?
Yeah, she,
Yes.
Okay,
I did.
yeah, no, so it's,
I mean,
people can bring their kids to town meeting, this country, it's citizen
no,
involvement. But I think you don't need to be providing a table activity like somewhere else. It's a takeaway. So if you want to just engage young families.
Yeah.
So that they'll stop and talk to you. They're like, oh, hey, did you see a coloring thing? Go see the conservation folks. Take a coloring thing home to your kid.
Yeah.
Right. Super
We can
easy.
find, ones that are conservation minded.
Cause they didn't do the scavenger hunt they took it home. with them.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
So.
But yet I'm
take
sure
home.
they remembered, they saw our name on there.
So if you guys wanna do that, and I don't know if you, I'll make one.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea for the table. What do the rest of you think?
Agree.
Yeah. I can have,
I'm not, for this, but I'll be willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we'd want to think they were gonna do it there, because then we're gonna have to supervise them.
no, I mean, it's really, these are like handouts and takeaways, you're not gonna catch rats at town meeting either, hopefully.
But it's nice to
Better.
for all ages.
Well, yeah, we're not handing out rat poison, we're just handing out information, so.
Okay, I'll just quickly mention, I didn't realize after Jay got this. I'm surprised we didn't have any. But anyways, he has reached out to the Canaan Conservation Commission, copied me on it, so I know, and they are very interested in helping him with the presentations he's doing at school.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
And let's see. Oh, on the class 6 roads. We did have a little follow-up we're gonna do on that. Oh, I found an interesting thing in our book. On class 6 roads. Yeah. Class 6 roads and trails. Numerous conservation commissions have taken on issues related to class 6 roads. In many municipalities, class 6 roads are used for non-motorized recreational purposes. The local governing body has the authority to regulate the use of class 6 roads by off-highway recreation vehicles, which are forbidden to use the right-of-way of any roads, including class 6, without explicit permission of the governing body. And that's an RSA, in the form of an ordinance following the OHRV use of public ways. Some, but not all, municipalities have granted this permission. For more information on the OHRV's use use, go to the New Hampshire Fish and Game website on the OHRB page and the New Hampshire ATV trail map. However, a municipality may not repair or maintain that road that has become class 6 due to failure to maintain it without running the risk of returning to class 5 status after five successive years of maintenance. It will be returned to class 5, but that's if the town doesn't. The solution may be for the legislative body to vote to make the road a class A or class B trail, both of which are public rights of way that may be maintained for recreational trail uses without fear that maintenance may result in upgrading to class 5 status with increased maintenance requirements. Now, I think the thing we'd have to check, I don't think it volunteers maintenance.
It means you can spend money.
Would
That,
be the same as if this would be if the town was maintaining it, I think. It could end up going.
no, yeah, volunteers isn't. So I met with Rob, like I said, I would.
Yeah,
And with, my brother Dave is had volunteered, but, I cleared up with Rob just because the town can't spend any money on a class 6 road and we
right.
said we would let the volunteers work on it. I asked them the questions like, do they need to tell somebody they're going out, right? Like, so basically if you're just like filling in holes and taking care and bringing in material like they did on Bog Road, no,
My pond.
the other really wet
Mud Pond
road,
Road.
Mud Pond Road.
Did you check with Rob about the signs? Was it Rob or Jim you were going to?
We don't know where that sign.
I was thinking,
So we are out of signs and we need to order. I do know that. So, sorry,
I was thinking
you're
that
talking
might be
to classic
something we
road.
want the Conservation Commission.
I think you,
Do you have
yeah,
any information on that?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Regarding the signs,
Mhm.
I took that picture of the town sign at the south end of Old County Road.
Yep.
Right where it leaves Route 4.
Yep.
I have seen these in a few other places, a few other roads in the town. If the town is out of those signs, those are the signs the town uses, and it's time to order more.
Yeah.
I don't know wherever they're gonna find the money, but if they wanna have their own,
And it just says class 6?
yep. So, Shirley, you were on carbon copy on the response from Jim.
I think it restricts the
I was.
motorized use during
Well,
that season too.
Jim
actually, I
didn't,
have the text right here. I'll call it up. No need to speculate when we can have a picture. Patience, it is.
Oh, yes, here it is right here. Oh, we purchased them.
yeah, so that's what I was saying.
That's why.
I made
was
sure
thinking
you were,
that'd be a good
because
thing.
when he responded, he didn't, so when I said thank you to him, I looped you back in so that you could see. Yeah, so the Conservation Commission purchased
Yeah,
those.
and that was back in Ken Daniels' time.
It's been a while. Ken Daniels is, yep.
You know what I liked,
How much were
The
they?
actual text,
there were a few spares that were in inventory here and we would replace them as needed. Till we used the last one a couple of years ago at Old County Road. So.
bingo,
And that one obviously was taken probably.
How much are they?
That's worth
It
it.
doesn't say.
It won't matter how much they used to be because Ken Daniels was so long ago,
Yeah,
it won't even be close.
it was 20 years ago, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ken was great.
If the CC wanted to make a list of the missing signs and reorder, we can place them in the spring. So it just says class 6 on them. That what it
the
says?
actual text for everyone's information. Class 6 road, not maintained, past its own risk, no wheeled vehicles from March 1st to May 31st per order of selectmen, period.
Okay.
Perfect.
I like to tread lightly on there.
Yeah, well, that's
I
not,
like
that's
it.
not the text.
I know, but I'd love to add it at the bottom.
Select board now.
no, maybe, yeah, we could have them change it to.
So then that's what we need to do then. We need to find out how many we need.
Mhm.
So how many, well, Jim would know how many class 6 roads we have. And check it out.
Yep.
So evidently they've had to replace them over the years.
So how, is that something you guys wanna do?
Yeah, let's, any opinions? Do we want to continue to provide the signs for the class 6 roads?
I mean, obviously it depends on how much they are. I'm
Yeah.
thinking there are some class 6 roads that are impassable anyways, and I don't think we wanna waste our money on those. But those that are currently being used and maintained, I think we need to have one at every one of those.
So we find out more information for our next meeting. And on cost,
Do you wanna talk to him, Shirley, or do you want me to ask? Do you want me to ask him to give us a price?
if you want to, I'll be glad.
I'll do it right now. Hi, Jim.
And ask him how many class 6 roads we have.
And how many of them are,
We had that.
Well, I think
Last couple of meetings, didn't we? What's his name?
that's the traveled part is a separate issue, really. Because legally, any of them can be traveled. If you guys wanna like discern, but let's get a total count and then the
Yeah.
price, and then you can, depending on how painful it is.
Yeah, I just know there's some that are, no, they're not passable.
But I think they basically, it's a pass at your own risk, so it's still not a bad, like, if somebody's driving their Prius and the GPS tells them to go there, it wouldn't be sad to see a sign that had a little warning on
And
it.
that has happened, folks.
Yep, I
I
think,
can tell you
it's-
stories.
oh, yeah. Hey, there was somebody on a snowmobile trail in New Hampshire recently.
Let me talk to you about the road that doesn't exist, but they have been saying that it does ever since Randolph Valley. But anyway,
Okay, so our questions are, how many,
And how
Usually
many?
signs and volumes, if price comes down
how
anyway.
many,
yeah,
And it
there
sounds like that last
How
time I
much
got extra, ask if he knows. how
does
many they
a
ordered.
sign cost? Okay,
And
and how much how many signs did we order last time?
It may be if you order a certain number, the
Time.
time goes down.
Is there a price break? A
Well,
quantity price break?
volume, price break.
Well, yeah, well, it'd also have to be, if it's a through road, you'll have to have it both ends,
Mhm.
right? I mean, not just the number of roads, but.
A lot of them
And
dead
then
end into
entrances.
another town.
No,
Then
I
it's
know
not
that.
our problem.
No, I didn't realize that. But I'm just saying if they
I mean-
don't,
It could be, but
but if they don't, you need one at both ends. It's just my
Yeah.
point, that's all.
are
So there might
there,
be a few extra.
yeah, we could probably figure that piece out ourselves, but yeah, so we can get this. So
They're
questions.
probably made by at the
Commission.
Concord president.
mhm.
I have no idea. Yeah, lots of metal signs come from,
Yeah,
okay,
we got bookcases from there.
good, many thanks. All right,
Point of information.
I can install them,
Madam
I will
Chair.
volunteer to install them.
Is that sometimes known as the New Hampshire License Plate Academy?
oh, is that what it's called? Okay, so back to, so my discussion with Rob is because it really can't be town funded, right? Because it's a class 6 road. They're not gonna be doing the coordination, but the volunteer groups are allowed to do it. They have their own clubs, their own insurance, so, yeah, they do.
That's,
And it,
that's relevant.
no, and so I had this conversation with Rob already. These folks already do, like you do separately trail work, and so that's on class 6.
And they're
So-
willing to take it on.
But they're willing to take it on. So the next step, I think, is to decide. I've got a list of, if I could finish, that'd be lovely. I have a list of things to go over. There's Hypertherm has a volunteer crew as well. And we've engaged to meet with her. So I typed up a quick, we propose leaving this class 6 roads. There was motion. So I wrote up like a quick, we're gonna engage with stakeholders to create a volunteer team to evaluate town class 6 roads, determine priorities, develop a repair plan, and maintain trails employing volunteers and donations. They would be in charge of their own volunteers and donations. They have their own nonprofit. The stakeholders we had listed were OHRV users, snowmobiles, four-wheelers, side-by-sides, four-wheel drive, vehicles, and New Enfield doesn't allow OHRVs everywhere, but these are people we had talked about in our meeting. Pedestrians, hikers, walkers, hunters, people with physical disabilities, the snowmobile club, the four-wheel drive clubs, the landowners and abutters, and the state of New Hampshire. Those are the stakeholders. Opportunities, the volunteers.
Too.
Yeah.
Question.
Oh gosh, see, this is why we say these things out loud and, well, okay, I should slow down. Who else did we forget? Anyways, so this is just kind of like gonna go to the volunteer folks, right? To see, that way they have kind of like a quick bulleted list.
Biden.
Yep.
Cause the town can't do this work.
Mhm.
Opportunities, volunteers with time to offer skill set, equipment, local businesses who could donate materials. Craig, the RSA allowing a crew of volunteers, I asked about that, but it's not germane because they're not gonna be volunteering for the town of Enfield. Because they can't.
They aren't actually volunteering for the town, no.
No, so we don't have to
What's
worry about
going
that.
on, therefore, is that the town is allowing them
Yes,
to work on
yes,
town roads.
Yep.
Which are class 6,
Mhm.
but without any coordination from the town.
Yep.
Of an official nature, no town funds.
and
I
so,
think they'll be happy to dig their teeth into it.
and they have, seems like they have been, so, so the.
Some of them have been, this will bring out more.
I think so. So there was a question on how to organize, so I would say I'm. Dave is, he's actually texted me, you see me, he's like, what are you doing? He doesn't need to sit through the whole meeting with us, but,
So
so,
we had anyone online?
no, we haven't, they would ping, it would go bing. So Dave is gonna, set a date with the volunteer coordinator from Hypertherm because they get such a good body, and I will work with him unless somebody else wants to do that. They need to probably make a list, and then I think they could just give us updates occasionally, because it wouldn't take town time or funds to give an update on what they're doing, and,
Cause that would be good to,
mhm.
and I
Yep.
forget, maybe if it's the one you're working with, there was one in here
Mhm.
that wanted to,
Mhm.
where is he?
So, and then, yeah,
Mr. Sabat.
yeah, so one of the trail groups, they're gonna have to sort out who's the lead group.
So is this to do trails or maintaining the roads?
I'm calling it trails, but it's the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The plastic.
Sorry, I'm so used to calling them, they aren't trails, but yeah, I'm calling it the wrong things, the classics. And then, I did have a note, Jean, that you would send guiding principles. Did you send those?
I didn't send them, but I've written them down in my notebook and I'll type them and
Okay.
send them to you.
Yeah, well, I think they could go to everyone, but I had that as a note because I think we would be smart to take a look together, and then if we had something to share with them as they do their work, right? Right, we can't tell them how to do their work, but
What is it you're wanting to do here, please?
what are we
Yes.
are, they are
English.
in English.
Yeah, as in a few words.
Mhm.
It's none of our business. They're gonna do it themselves. That's your few words. How's that? Well, no, I mean, it is. We cannot, as a town, tell them what to do. And we cannot spend town funds, but in order to give them some of the meeting distilled, which is what I just read you, give them that, give them the guiding principles if we agree on them. And then they would do the inventory and maybe give us an
And we
update
will
as an
have-
outside group.
Yeah.
Like how we invite other outside groups to come in, like Crystal Lake Association, Mascoma Lake Association.
Basically like a community outreach program to maintain
Mhm.
class 6 roads for multi-use.
And
That's basically what it is.
did anybody watch the wildlife and trails?
Yes.
Webinar yet?
Yes.
yesterday?
Yeah.
So I watched that, and the reason I'm asking this question is because it was a very good webinar. And it talked about the perspective of the impact on wildlife when maintaining a trail and probably anything. And I thought there were some very important points brought up about, depending on the topography, depending on, is it a wetland, is there a stream? Do you have to, cross this or what? There are lots of different considerations, some of which probably don't apply if there's a road there, but they're rough, right?
Mhm.
They're part of nature. And I thought as a conservation commission,
Mhm.
it's important for us to put that on the table
Mhm.
as to what the impact on wildlife is. And so I think as part of kind of guiding principles is that we will be conscious of the impact on wildlife as we do this as a.
Right. And now it's another good thing, it would be good to have us information like that at our table at the town meeting
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and just there's, numerous ways to do things.
And you can't so like, when you go on a trail, and I am saying trail right now in the right sense, and there's a little water bar, right? If there's an existing water bar, you can like clean the leaves out of it, you can do, but you can't you can't go build a new bridge on a town,
Right.
right? So those things like substantially, they're gonna remain in their original
Question.
state with correction.
And so I think some guidance
But-
around that is probably
Mhm.
appropriate.
Yeah.
To say, don't just, because this is why I think guiding principles are important, and I just watched that webinar yesterday, so it wasn't like it was on my mind before, but we're a Conservation Commission, and this is about wildlife and nature and all.
Mhm.
And I think it's a way to round out what the intention is, especially if we have volunteers, just to say, hey, let's remember to take these things. And there were some very specific resources out there, websites for the land being, identified as, either wet or more wet or less wet, and that's just one example, but I thought it was a
And
really important point.
There's one more of them too, is it in 2 weeks, I forget, but after that, they provide, if there's anything that we're working on, they'll work with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can apply for,
I
funding.
thought they were great points, because everybody wants nature
Mhm.
to be preserved and respected.
Yeah.
And so I think there are ways that we can help
Mhm.
build that in, so that whatever they do, or whatever they want, what they're
Mhm.
planning, that's taken into
Mhm.
Right.
consideration.
that'd be good to send you some of those guidelines they talked about, so you could pass them on to the volunteers.
Yeah,
I
that
think
we would
too, they
discuss.
talked about a lot of really great things, like they go out and they see a lot of hiker trash, and they do a carry out, whether it's theirs or
Yeah.
not, and they talked about, the material they were removing, you saw the big pile, and then they removed, so it's not like you threw it on the side and made a mess. Sometimes it's good to have things stacked
Was
up,
there-
right? So I think all of those pieces are ones that are just so that we have kind of what your guiding principles are, give it to them as a resource, and then just
And I
checking
think,
along.
I think some of the resources that were in that webinar could be
Yeah.
helpful.
And if you want ones that highlight the ones you feel would be good to pass on to the volunteers,
Mhm.
that would be good.
Do we have to go one step beyond that? I'm wondering though, is it take your letter, and
This is
ask-
just bullet points.
all right, but ask them to notify us of what they plan on doing ahead of
You
time?
can't do that because this can't be a town project.
Mm.
So we're partnering with them, but I think we could say, hey, would you guys be willing to come in every once in a while, like maybe twice, and like tell us what you're doing.
It's an update what you did.
And we are allowed to volunteer ourselves. So it'd be nice if they're doing a trail day and you guys wanted to
Right.
go.
Mhm.
So I think they're also, and just basically open that portal of communication. And then when we have some checkpoints that are, nice and friendly, not like mandatory deadlines where we're like, hey, we're gonna meet in, at the beginning of June, so we know we're gonna do are you doing your inventory, and then say September or whatever you pick, right? I'm just picking random dates, but I think we could do that, and that also keeps people engaged so that you remember you have some hopes and dreams on this, because I think it's important.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things, now that I'm remembering this, was that different, the topography matters in terms of how you use that road. What's appropriate, just as guidelines for people who might show up. Some are more level than others, some are more wet than others, some are very steep and could be dangerous if used in various ways, or could get torn up a little more easily.
I forgot skiers and snowshoers. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I think, taking nature into consideration, and to say, okay, what makes sense on this and what doesn't?
That's why I like to tread lightly.
Yeah, tread
Yeah.
lightly.
So,
It was a really good
Yeah.
webinar.
I'm glad you
yeah,
guys
they
go.
do that every year. They have 4 of them.
Yeah,
It's,
excellent.
they're all great.
So if you guys are okay, I'll drop this over to them and see if we can get them to, and then,
Awesome.
yep, maybe nice to get done.
Terrific.
They seem excited. We like free things.
It's win-win, I think.
Sorry, I was like, ooh, it gets cleaned up and it's not expensive.
They also mentioned, sorry, all
Yeah,
these things are
absolutely.
starting to come up.
Yeah,
They also mentioned that the roads that are more accessible than others,
Mhm.
you kind of start with those.
Mhm.
And some that are there but never ever used, you know, their guidance was, you know, that
Don't
was
spend
going to
your
be your
time.
highest priority,
Yeah.
to spend a lot of energy and time on that. But those that are used, you know, frequently, they're easily accessible, they're navigable and all of that. You know, kind of go where people are going to begin and then think about the others.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
Starting with
Yeah.
the ones that we're gonna put signs on.
Right, and that
Really?
tells us where are we gonna, you know, prioritize that.
I think though, that's something that will come back to us potentially is a sense of what they found. Not that Kurt didn't give us a pretty great idea on some of them, but, and then what they think are the priorities. So, yeah.
Yeah, the ones
That could be a project. we
Like,
do,
hey, this
putting
one
the
has
signs on them that maybe-
6-foot water hole that really doesn't belong there because it just it obviously washed out, easy fix. Like, or not easy if you're the person with the shovel, easy if you're the person with the piece of equipment that can go
Yeah.
really quickly. You know, because some of those, I'm not saying 6-foot, like some of those like long puddles, they're only like this, but they're just obnoxious and it's not great to drive through because it constantly washes and then the silt goes down and we know it's
Right.
no good.
Yeah,
So getting, especially if it's going into one of those little bars or into a culvert,
right.
they are allowed to do some basic, you can't go digging up the culvert, but you can like uncrush it, pull the sticks out of it. So just getting some stuff done. Yeah.
Okay. So,
What was the?
anything else on the class six? Melissa? Shaker Boulevard Bridge replacement, we got into that, but we need to, talk about it a little more, decide if we are going to write another letter with, the information we learned from the input at the, select board meeting. It was very, and also how many people were there that were interested? Did you want to say more to that, Craig?
First, I want to say this. If the select board is coordinating whatever with these various volunteer groups to work on these,
It's not select board, I'm a member.
who is doing it?
I'm a member of conservation. So I'm saying I can do it as, somebody else, if they want to do it, can do it. That's up to them.
Is that you mean with the class six roads?
Right,
I think you got a good handle on it.
all right, because what I need to have is, I need to be in the loop on that.
Okay, sure.
Not just because I am the town trail master, but also because I have nothing if not a very long and deep connection to these things.
Excellent, okay. I am writing link in Trailmaster. And is it email? Okay.
Here's my email. Do you have it?
I do. I just wanted to know, is that, they tend to email
Right,
more than call. Is that okay?
that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry, we have,
I usually email, but yeah, I know, but not everybody loves it. So, all right. I'm saying link in Trailmaster via,
I don't do LinkedIn. I
No.
email.
I'm linking you into the conversation.
LinkedIn, yeah.
I'm saying link in.
LinkedIn.
I'm writing a command. I'm writing a direction. I'm writing myself notes so I
I never use it.
command-based note.
One time I got.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm excited.
Somebody, my
Um,
niece get a job or something and all of a sudden.
okay, so,
Did it all, God. I said, drop that. I'm out of this.
I have, okay, just back on that. So I'm coordinating with David Plumley, just so you know who he is.
Mhm.
Full disclosure, he's my brother. He works at Hypertherm and Hypertherm, no, my
Built
gosh.
into their job to do volunteer work.
40 hours a piece, yeah.
They got how many days a year paid time to?
Full week at least.
Yeah, 40 hours a week.
Uh-huh.
It's
40 hours
amazing.
each.
And you know what an awesome way to get out in your community.
That's good. It's
Oh,
a-
It is awesome.
It is a
We
great-
need to make more use of enthusiasm.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
come
and
and help at
it's-
the museum Does the different events too.
Yeah, I've worked along with him.
And I have 2 email addresses that were given to us last time, so, like, some of the people in the chat, had.
Mhm.
So, who eventually will get, who were the, I can't remember which 4-wheel, but
Yeah.
one of them is, Rob at Exploring NH, I know that, so, anyways, I'm gonna leave that to Dave's good sense, but I think I have a good, and Jean, you're setting the guiding principles, okay. Okay, so we are, I think, in good coordination shape on that.
Thank you very
Sounds
much.
good.
Thank you, this is gonna be awesome, and if you needed something moved, they could also potentially, right, like, large item for your projects.
Well,
Not very likely
couldn't,
because
could they?
we are used to moving what we need to move with handpower only.
and if,
The other thing to remember
Yeah.
is that most of our work is up in the hills and
Yeah.
far
Oh,
from
yeah.
any road.
Yeah.
and Craig's would be, your volunteers are one that are
Mhm.
working for the town,
Mhm.
so they need to have the,
Yeah. That's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Correct.
couldn't mix those two.
No, but I think you could
Excuse me,
feel
we
some other
what?
people.
I mean, you couldn't have the ones that are working on the class 6 come and work on your trails because they would.
Well, they could, but they'd have to fill out the form and work
Yeah,
with them.
they-
They could absolutely
just
do
like on
both
the other
projects,
civic
yeah.
one.
They
I
can.
would like to respond to that, and the
Okay.
short version is, we already have the means for them to do that.
Mhm.
We set it up last year,
Mhm.
and
Good.
this, for instance, is one of their forms. Single day volunteer sign in.
Mhm.
It's the same language the state uses, only the town of Enfield. They would have to sign in as volunteers with the town of Enfield Trail Crew like
Right.
everybody else.
That's what I meant, Craig, that they
That's what
couldn't
I
do
thought.
it without doing that.
Yep,
Because they've not
Mhm.
signed in to do the work on the class 6.
they don't have to sign in with anybody except their own organization.
And my
Yep, not with the
saw
town.
there.
And by the way, it is important that we remember always. RSA 50817, limitation of actions. They are not protected against liability in statute unless the organization they are working with, whether it be the volunteers on class 6 roads or the town, has a record of their volunteering, and they have to sign in on the waiver form. We must not forget that. So with that being said, we're moving on to the Sugar Boulevard Bridge.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah. What I have been doing is a little detective work. And what I've determined is that that particular type of Bailey Bridge, which is a modern bridge of hot dip galvanized components, not an old Bailey bridge. By talking with the New England regional rep for the manufacturer and going to observe it and sending them photos, we have determined that that bridge does in fact have the means to take the standard kind of walkway system that is meant to go with these bridges. It's 5 feet wide. And it has a handrail on the outside of the walkway and on the bridge or truss side. That is to OSHA standards, and it does not include a sufficient barrier for small beings and dogs and so forth. So you'd have to add probably a chain link fence with rubber coating on the links and so on along the handrails in order to make it kid-proof and dog-proof. You don't really want to see some kid taking a swan dive into that brook. But that's a pretty small cost compared to the benefits that you have, which would be you are separating the pedestrians from the traffic. Because ever since that went in there, having been a 12-foot wide, one lane roadway. And sooner or later, that's inevitably gonna result in some god awful accident. So I have done this research. I have found out that the bridge is indeed designed to take a pedestrian walkway of a standard type. And it's a matter of inquiring further to find out what it would take to get it approved by, possibly by the DOT if there's funding involved. And whether it can be rented or it can be bought. Last year, the firm took down a 90-foot Bailey Type Bridge for the city of Keene, had a walkway on the outside of each truss. So these things can work, and they scrapped that one, but they are certainly available. Question is whether it is worth it to the town. I happen to have here, this is from the town report. And what it is capital reserve funds. Now, the capital improvement program, the 2024 town meeting, Articles 4 and 5, deposited $600,068 in it. And then there's expenditures, which are largely before that date, but they still are there. They have a total of $331,659, which leaves a net change, as the accountants call it, but which is actually still in the capital reserve fund as of the end of February. Is the net change, and remaining in there is $268,408. Which the selectmen have the authority to spend.
Which fund is this, Craig? You said.
This is the capital reserve fund, and it's
Which capital reserve?
well, it is in what they call expendable trust funds. This is all on page 108 of the town report.
Are you talking about the undesignated? I don't have that in front of me right now. You're saying it's in the town report, because not all of them are just, there's no like pool of fun money hanging out in this town. That you can just go fishing in and spending.
There are all kinds of funds created in different years for different purposes. This is in the purview of the select board, and they are named the agent to expend the following funds. They therefore may expend funds from those reserves without further action of the town meeting. And included in funds of that nature, expendable trust funds when the select board is it.
What page are you on again? Sorry.
That's 106.
Thank you.
Named agent to expend the following funds.
In a nutshell, you're asking the town to take money out of the capital reserve fund to spend on a separate walkway. Is that
On a
correct?
walkway that is designed and intended to run along the side of a truss, yes.
Right, okay. So I would argue that how is that gonna provide any more safety before and after the bridge? It's not.
Are you talking about municipal facilities, maintenance and equipment capital reserve fund? I'm on page 106.
Okay. What I have here is
Yeah,
107 and
107.
this is this is for what the selectmen can spend money.
Are you in the capital improvement fund? Capital improvement program?
Capital reserve funds, it's called. What the select board can spend the money on.
But every fund has a name. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because they have a name and they have a legally constituted purpose.
So they do. the capital improvement program, CRF.
Okay, yeah, that is that has an entire booklet. It's about this thick. All of the department heads and departments construct over a period of years, so.
Yep.
You don't want to be fishing in that.
You don't want to be fishing in that means what?
So when I tell you they have a plan, like we can get a copy of the book if you need it, but it's not typically printed, right? But it is, so I'll pick the fire department because it's really easy to visualize. We know fire engines are expected to last X amount of time. The pumper tanker might expect do this another, whatever years. The truck, you might have your chief might do a certain number of years. And so, and you might have, I'm just gonna say four-wheeler and say boat. We have those items, an ATV and a boat. Those are things we have. We wouldn't necessarily go out and replace them. They might have been a donation, but so they go through anything over what's $10,000. And in their budget, we don't put that in the regular budget. You build it into capital improvement because this is a vehicle that helps level the tax rate so that you're constantly putting in, it's a savings vehicle. So I'm going to finish. It,
I'm
Okay.
I'm not saying it.
Okay.
I'm just agreeing.
So basically you have to save X number of dollars each year, right? Sometimes and then you're deciding, there's this capital improvement program committee that also like looks at these with the department heads. So they go through, they vet it, they make a recommendation to the select board. So we don't just unilaterally take from it. Sometimes they come to you and they say, you know what, we've been saving money, but this is a 0% finance. And they're not giving us anything off in cash, say great. Or an example this year is the police chief found the cruiser that's gonna go to town meeting that we already have built into the capital improvement program. He found it interestingly, for whatever reason, they weren't making the police vehicle for 1 year. There was a 1 year factory pause. They were very hard to get. He found the cruiser we need out of the new, so it's new but old stock. It's a brand new vehicle. I think it's a 2025 and they're now making 2026 or one of those tricks, right? So we could get it for X number of $1,000 cheaper. He can come to us and say, will you authorize me to take it earlier? We had the same rescue pumper. We were able to use some ARPA funds and do that. So but it's all planned items. When we took ARPA money and used it to pay for some of the stuff in CIP and used the other CIP money, which legally it can be used to buy land, it makes the accounting gymnastics make people very upset. I will tell you, even if it's legal, even if it makes sense, even if it saves you money. I would not be in favor of trying to convince, if you want to do a project, you can, approach it as we want to do a project and then run it through CIP because it would be CIP, but you would want to start at the beginning of the program, which means DPW would have to take this to CIP and run it through.
And again, so what you're saying is all projects, kind of,
Large projects.
all large projects that would qualify for capital.
Mhm.
improvement that are prioritized against one another, so to speak, that if
Yeah.
somehow that it goes through the chain and gets there, then you
Right.
decide.
Yeah.
It's
And
not-
there's the timeline, there's the money, there's like the savings, and they've already done the vetting. They get initial quotes and then they do a projection on how much it might increase, right? It's not.
So is this bridge one of those projects that's in the cap?
No, absolutely not.
Can it
It's
be
not,
added?
okay.
Can it be added?
No, not right this second. No, it has to go through the process. So the Oak Hill Road Bridge project, that expenditure was in there. And then going forward, they'll have the project list. Document, they usually have a CI. They used to take like 10 years worth of town meeting, but those move. So we have that piece that we need to pay for. That would be, but no one's making a plan to do an alternate project right now, right? Like what
That's what I
you're,
was asking, for 20% of the engineering cost for this bridge we're talking about is in the capital improvement.
it would have to run through capital.
It has.
That's what I thought, that's what I thought, so it
Yeah.
is.
But that's a match. That's not you take it and you assign it to someone else. So if you are proposing a fundamentally different project, you have to start at the
Right.
beginning.
Right,
The state is not gonna fund a different project, right? This was their project they proposed. So if you wanna do a different project, you need to start at the beginning with DPW.
so I'm just trying
Yeah, oh,
Clarify
absolutely,
this.
absolutely, because it is a very,
to, where the money comes from, I think we need
Yep.
this.
the
Frank is just
money,
proposing.
Yeah.
That some money from somewhere, maybe it looks like it has to be a new project
Mhm.
for a separate bridge.
If you wanna do a totally different bridge and,
Right.
and propose a competing project
Right.
idea, you have to start with
So
DPW.
I would argue that it's not money well spent.
Mm.
Because even though, yes, it's gonna be very safe, it's not a continuing walkway. If you have somebody who has a dog, they're walking the dog on the road. It's no different before and after the bridge than it's going to be on the new bridge if it's wide enough. And I think that's sufficient. I don't think you're for a, what now is, could be a significant cost added for the town. Is it really worth it for them to be having a little bit more safety just when they're on the bridge? I would say no.
I think people here walk on the side of roads all the time. I grew up here. It's very normal. I also grew up
Well,
downtown,
that's, they walk on the
with
present
disconnected
bridge.
sidewalk and what?
They walk across the present bridge.
Mhm,
But
yeah.
it's a lot safer because it's one lane.
Mhm.
Can
Yes,
you-
I'm not arguing, I'm
Right.
not arguing.
Yeah,
I'm just
but,
taking Frank's proposal and saying,
Right.
I
You
just,
know, the 20% that will have to go through the capital improvement. too.
As far as I know, usually, yeah, because that's part of, so yes. The answer is yes, because the Oak Hill Road Bridge was in this, right? So the payments come through CIP.
sure.
And they make those plans. And that's, CIP is something that changes. That's why that you have this committee that's constantly vetting. Or you might find out, oh my gosh, we thought we were gonna need this pumper. It comes into the horizon because the other one's 30 years old and you find out it's great. Or you find out, sometimes we get an opportunity to refurbish something with a new tank, or they do, like our ambulance, we dragged that ambulance till it was dead,
Now, what
literally.
was it, if I remember right, it was either in 26 or 27, this won't get,
Mhm.
they won't even start this till. Because that's why they,
And then
Another 2 years of the present situation, yes.
and we don't know if they have that money in hand
Mhm.
either yet, do we?
On what, who
The,
has money?
Department of Transportation.
That is a question that has to be answered by Ed. He would have to probably make that
Well,
call.
it could be up
I-
in the,
yeah, I
the
can't
bridge
do
could
that.
be up in the air at this point.
Well, it's not that, we know that they increased the original price estimate above, so the engineer said during that meeting that they would have to go back to the state. So that piece is in their kind of.
so it
limits.
sounds like there's like a
Mhm.
way that if
Mhm.
someone has perhaps an idea that might,
Mhm.
you know, in somebody's opinion, be
Mhm.
worth consideration. Is there a pathway for them to at least get that idea on the table so the people who are doing the project as it's approved could at least consider it?
An alternate plan or?
Or not a whole out, just maybe in addition to it, or,
So that the engineer sat here with us during a public hearing, which is a legally note. They have to have two of them. That's the legal process for them.
See, we
and
never
so we
heard
have-
about the first one.
This was the first one.
Oh,
went to it.
I
It was
thought they were
just once.
talking about one that had already happened that night. This was the second, I thought.
This is, as far as I know, this is the
Yeah.
first, so they take, that's the purpose, and that's why the picture here and all the conversation is to take that feedback.
yeah.
And he certainly sounded like he was listening, and I think he's a
Yeah.
professional, so. But if you guys wanna give another letter to them, you certainly could.
To just reinforce that we still think it should be.
And I think, if you feel like,
And if you had been at that meeting, you would have really felt the need for it because there were so many people there that lived right there.
it was
that
very
felt
well attended.
It was gonna change the character
Mhm.
of their neighborhood to put a 2-lane bridge in.
I really think that we
Oh, well,
accidentally
yeah.
ended up with a good bridge.
Yeah.
No,
It's not a good
that's what they've
for
had.
everything,
Yeah.
but we accidentally ended up with a nice solution.
Now, your proposal, you were thinking of an alternative proposal that would be less expensive. Is that where you were coming from?
It would be
I'm
more
thinking
expensive. to the
more
town.
expensive.
Yeah,
I just
being
asked
the
a
Bailey
question.
Bridge.
Huh.
And
I just got asked a question. Thank you. My motive is public safety and to achieve that by separating pedestrians and the driving public. And that can be done, I'm sure, in a number of ways. One that is done on bridges all over, including several in Enfield, is you have on at least one side an honest to God sidewalk. Inside the rails of the bridge. in this particular case for a Bailey Bridge, you can't do that.
Okay,
It's just not engineered that way. That's why, when originally designed, these were intended to have sidewalks hung on the outside of the trusses.
okay,
As military bridges, the idea was to have the vehicle traffic in the middle of the bridge and the pedestrians on the outside, so that neither party had to increase their risk or slow down the advance of the army. So this bridge is intended to take a pedestrian walkway that is an accessory to it. I have determined by the council and so forth, the walking through of the regional rep, that in fact it is
Mhm.
ready for that. And it really is nothing but a small transom, a knee brace, a couple of handrails, and a deck. It is nowhere near as expensive as having a separate bridge would be, but it greatly increases pedestrian safety.
So it sounds like there's another channel for that kind of input.
Yeah, so
I would
conservation
like that.
can't really weigh in on engineer, right? Because we're not in engineering. Well, we have feelings about, so like, if we're worried about the speed of traffic for the animals and, or say like runoff, based on the plan, or remember there was a whole list what we were
Right.
asked and Shirley. So I think if you wanted
And
to
that's what we put in there.
if you wanted to reinforce one of those like components that's on that list, like they talked about the velocity of the water, right? So those are all things that impact conservation. We're able to weigh in. on
Whatever
those.
size, if
Mhm.
wider, will
Yeah.
impact more.
Mhm. But I will say, absolutely, as individuals with concerns, you guys can go, I mean, I hear you.
I think,
And you,
if we were gonna propose keeping the Bailey Bridge and adding the sidewalk, we would need to go to the selectmen with that, rather than
well,
that.
not we, because we
Well,
have no
I
legal
don't think
standing.
that-
to-
no, I mean,
Yeah.
they
individual.
would be the ones that you went to. We
Yeah,
are an
yeah.
advisory.
Sure.
Quite so.
All we can do is say
Yeah,
what.
and really, the select board doesn't get into day-to-day proposals, right? Like, they don't typically come from the select board.
Then who would you?
Department of Public Works, Ed
Yeah.
reports to Ed, right? And so Ed, like usually those proposals come from the Department of Public Works. They have their own project list too. And obviously they have their own goals, they have their strategic initiatives, because even though it probably doesn't feel like it, and you guys don't see it, we actually do have strategy that drives our organization. And we have goals about service levels and things like that. And we ask our team to work within those goals and within that strategy just to keep us on track. So public safety is absolutely one of them.
Yeah.
So we, they would do that work and bring it forward.
So it
Now,
sounds like that's.
Mhm.
sorry.
That would be, excuse me, that would be where then, you're right, where we should, give our recommendation.
so it sounds like we have
But
two issues.
look, take for instance, Boys Camp Road. That's a
Mhm.
single lane bridge
Yeah,
and everyone slows down for it.
Mhm. but at the end of the day, that's not conservation. Like, we really do care about it and I think it's important. Like the silts when people go slower is important, right? But so to just keep that conservation focus so that because
Oh, yeah.
when we're making that recommendation and so if you guys, like I said, want to go back and highlight any of those previous recommendations and say, following the public hearing, we really just would like to express to you on like item 12 or whatever.
Emphasize this or that.
Yeah, I don't have in my file, I don't have a copy of the letter.
That I did.
I'm not saying you didn't send it. I'm saying that I
Yeah.
probably didn't save it down out of cyberspace. I'm sorry.
Right, and then, safety is always
I have it right
important.
here.
So what we're saying is that there's another avenue if there's,
I think that you can relate speed of traffic to,
I do
It's-
think
we don't
after
have
the
data on
public
animal
hearing,
strikes.
It would not hurt to write again and just to,
right,
And not to beat
Yeah.
a dead horse, but I want to say that we got two issues.
Mhm.
We got a temporary bridge that should probably be replaced.
yeah, that's fine.
All right, and we've got safety
Yeah.
of pedestrians.
Safety is an issue.
What's on the table and possibly moving forward, possibly not, will address replacing the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Will it address the safety of the pedestrians?
I think that's an opinion question that's, I can't answer, and it really isn't within the purview of this committee, right? Like, I have my personal feelings on it. I said them as a select board member during,
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about, but you know, in terms of making a conservation recommendation to come back to conservation, you know, we would need to be focusing on, you know, the wildlife,
Impact
the
on
impact on
wildlife.
wildlife, impact on the waterway. And I think they did give good data about why they picked the type of bridge, the span and the abutments, and how they were minimizing impacts. There was kind of a high end, a low end, and they picked, said, well, what about looking at the middle? They looked at the velocity of the water, which when you have a 100-year storm, because they built to the 100-year storm. So just all of those components, right now, the current abutments you can't see the new bridge on them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's not in danger of falling, and that's not why we're doing it, right? This is, while it's a temporary bridge, it's a good bridge. Is it the ideal bridge? Is it pretty? Those are, you know, but the reason this is coming up is because the state offered it. So just like giving them our conservation opinions. And certainly I think just when it goes back into a public hearing, I'd love to hear people, you know, talk to them about safety and stuff.
Absolutely.
And in full disclosure, my family lives on the other end of the boulevard. I spent half my life like walking and running through there and with animals, without animals. So I think it is important, and I do want you guys, as soon as I see it come back onto the docket, I'll let you know, because
Mhm.
I think you should be there for the conservation piece, but also these things you're saying should be heard
Yeah.
and informed by the people who can do it. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I don't want to cut you out of the conversation. I really want to make sure it gets entered with the people who, and they get, you know, I can only beat them so much before I
They
ever
sent
get
a-
through again.
They sent the letter to four departments. They wanted, the letter has been sent to the following departments for boards and commissions for comments and input. Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Heritage Commission, Land Use and Community Development Administrator. Now, I'm on the Heritage Commission too, and I thought it was strange we didn't get this. It was still in the mailbox at the,
Oh, oops, the timing must have been
picked up,
bummer.
and this was sent out December.
Although at least
17th.
it's not a historic bridge, right?
Pardon me,
It's a piece of history, the
Right.
reason you lost it,
Well,
but the bridge
that's
itself is not historic.
the engineer sent
Mhm.
that to,
Mhm.
that's one of the commissions they wanted
Mhm.
input from.
I think one of the things that commission has done in the past too is you're establishing new history, right? So the Shaker Bridge
Mhm.
was a historic bridge and also is a future history. So, but it's too bad they need to weigh in. So do we want to write something, or what do you want to do?
What's your pleasure?
I want to eat
Uh,
dinner.
Pardon me?
I want to eat dinner. I'm just saying. I'm being selfish.
I didn't hear what you said, Kate.
Oh, I want to go home and eat dinner.
Oh, okay. We only have one.
It's almost 9.
We've already given input, right? You wrote a letter for, that was our feedback from,
We,
So we've
well,
already done that.
he actually, some of the things I mentioned in the letter, he hadn't really taken in. So, you know, like the aquifer there, I
Yeah.
asked at the meeting that night, I mentioned the aquifer, and he said, oh, I'll make note of that. But that was in my letter too. And,
So it sounded like what you're saying.
so I think that especially where there's so much time between, it wouldn't hurt to say
Do
after,
another.
do it after attending the public hearing. That, we would like to, just reinforce
Yeah,
what we felt before.
re-emphasize certain points that we haven't heard answers to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
And also point out too, I don't know, he sends this, wrote back and said, let's see, it would be sent out to, he will convey this to the DPW, New Hampshire Department of Transportation, and keep the various town boards and commissions updated as on progress.
So you could ask for some feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the public hearing, you
Right.
know.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's a direction.
Okay,
Yeah,
That's it.
that's moving forward.
yeah. So should, we, vote to, send a follow-up letter?
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone?
Right.
have any-
So moved.
Yes.
with the input from this discussion.
Mhm.
We're happy to review it if you want us to, if not.
Okay. If you wanna put down the, just quickly, say the things you'd like me to include. Probably most of the things, just reemphasize.
Reemphasize, definitely that aquifer, they gotta address that. That's right there.
And that's conservation territory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can't say, we,
That-
we should be done.
But I referred him to the Enfield, the natural resource inventory too.
That was a really good call, by the way. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and so,
And I said that it's in the highest ranked wildlife habitat for a biological region
Mhm.
with historical deer yards.
Mhm.
And there is a significant size aquifer alongside the Knox River.
Mhm.
maybe a sentence about what that means, what the implications are of that.
Yeah,
Because
Explaining.
they've got a lot of stuff coming from a lot of different directions.
yeah. And from a lot of different,
Vantage points.
yes. Let's move on.
Without the explanation,
Hey,
no,
we're
they can't.
one agenda item away.
I'm sorry. I just
Oh, no, I
had one of those days where I didn't get to eat.
Do you guys
Okay.
want to
You
do
did get
a
lunch.
That's,
second?
yeah,
Pardon me?
Do you want to do a second and a vote on the?
Oh, yeah,
motion?
we need a second.
Second,
Thank you, Whitney.
Whitney for the win.
Is everyone
All
in favor?
aye.
Anyone against? Thank you all for your input. The next thing, we've talked about this a lot already, is the rat poison outreach. We've decided that we'll do some flyers. I did want to, this is from the New Hampshire Audubon, and this is just amazing, how the rodicides work. It's awful. Are a class of poisons that prevent blood clotting. When an animal ingests a lethal dose of a SGAR, it dies slowly, making it an easy target for predators. This makes the rodicides harmful for predators and pets. When they eat poisoned rodents, they develop painful and often fatal internal bleeding. And this here was very interesting too, because we talked about the businesses, going to the businesses, and I talked with Ed, and he said that that would be fine. It wasn't like we're going on their property without their permission.
Mhm.
But this here answers a big question for us. While federal law bans the retail sale of these SGARs, these poisons remain legal and widely used by licensed pest control professionals.
oh, yeah.
And they come in a black bait boxes and include, it lists,
Mhm.
can't pronounce these names of the 4 poisons that are in there. And anytime you see this black box,
Where is that?
that's what they put out to catch the rodents. And this is one of the flyers I think we should
Mhm.
put out. And then there's
Is that available via email?
yes, that's how I got it. So I can easily, it's a link.
Oh,
So I
it's a
can
link.
just bring it in and see.
Well, I
Yes, I
sent
can
it to-
email it to
I
you.
sent the link to everyone.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that was a summary of
This
the
wasn't on that link.
webinar. Oh, that one
No,
wasn't?
This was
I'm
this
sorry.
one that
Okay.
Carol Foss sent me.
Okay,
This is a New Hampshire Audubon one. The ones, I want to copy those too, the ones from the Massachusetts Audubon and the Rhode Island. But-
That's fine.
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
your.
So I think that was, I don't know of any other thing. We just need to, she is happy to know that we want to spread. the
This
word.
is the one that was online that they sent, that you sent the link
Correct.
around? No.
This is one she
Sorry.
sent me, just sent me.
So
From
that-
the New Hampshire, it's a different flyer than what
Yeah.
was on the line.
Thank you.
so do we want to, next steps is look for businesses that are utilizing this technique?
Well,
and
yeah,
provide them
it would
information?
be, it's,
They're very-
pest control professionals that use it. They don't sell it in stores. It's against the law.
Right,
So who do we address? Do we address the
I think
pest control?
I think we
people?
start out
Or the-
making people aware, like we will at the general public. And then, but I mean, I want it's not just what I'm thinking. And then get a list of these pest control people maybe and send them the information. They must know this.
They do know it. They do know it. We,
But the people who hire them,
Yeah.
if we educate the public,
Right.
they're the ones who are gonna not want this stuff used. I
So it's
mean,
powerful
it's
things
right.
the consumer
But I
to
can-
boycott.
I mean, their pets could get into this, so.
I want to bring up something that might be a little controversial. But JP Pest Control is a company that takes care of pest and, infestations in houses and business and everything else. There are at least 4 or 5 of our households on our road that utilize their services. I'm one of them. And it's mouse control, essentially. It's not rats. And I'm gonna get to a point where there's a huge difference between a dead rat and a dead mouse. I spoke to the guy that came in to our house, asked him what they were using in the product. And it's one of these, it's the first one on the list. Broad, if I can, however you pronounce it. And I said,
Says my friend.
yeah, well, yeah.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Rat,
What happens if you
mouse
get a
poison, that's,
Oh, no, it's terrible.
that's not on the list of drugs that I know.
No, it's terrible. No, I'm giving you a hard time for
I
that
know,
base.
but anyway, so we've lived in our house for 22 years. We've had mice coming in and they die in the walls, they stink. It's not a safe thing.
Mm-mm.
And I set the snap traps. And it was always taken out 5 to 20 every year. And so we're one of a numerous number of people that are using their services. They came in, they bring in these little boxes for mice. And I asked them what the compound was that they used, and they said that one, and I knew it was a bad one. So I asked them about that. I said, well, isn't this not only inhumane, but what about these dead mice, or these mice that come out that have taken a lethal dose? And a cat or an eagle or something eating
Or a
it.
dog, yeah.
And the guy said, well, they'd have to eat over 100 of them to get a lethal dose for that eagle or for that cat. And I politely said, oh, okay, well, thank you. And then I did some math.
Yeah, no, it's
I
not.
went back
Right.
and I looked at the lethal dose. And the lethal dose and what they have in their little traps that they put in our houses is quite minuscule. And I multiplied double the lethal dose for a mouse. And then figured out what the lethal dose for a cat is. And I did the division. And a cat would have to eat 125 mice to have that medication or whatever drug kill it. So whereas a rat is huge and a fox or a cat or anything that attacks a rat would get a lethal dose with just a few of them. So I'm thinking there's a big difference between mice and the rats.
And the next question is some companies that put this out there, do they really calibrate it
Yeah.
precisely to take into consideration who they're going after?
Yeah.
Well, the biomedical, so you worry a lot on dogs, right? Like they eat things. And so biomedically, like a lethal dose of chocolate is idiopathic, so it could change from dog to dog. This, obviously, a lethal dose is not idiopathic. There is a number that's with
Yeah.
relative certainty. But that doesn't mean it works as quickly in each species. So I don't know if you can do it but you have to do some kind of estimate. I think these companies know that the fact of the matter at the end of the day is if you don't change consumers, then, so I guess, how do you guys want to, I'm not saying target consumers, but in terms of like you pick your target for the education component.
Education and choice.
There
We're
is
not gonna try to push it down there. We're just gonna.
do you start with a newsletter? Have we put it in the newsletter already? Did we do that yet? That new
I
one
plan
needs
on
to go.
putting this in the newsletter
Okay.
next month.
Okay. And then you guys have the Enfield Village Association does have their business directory. So that's something you could use as a resource.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, take care.
Just tossing those out is kind of helpful. We, you know, I certainly,
Oh, I don't think it's something we're gonna go out. and
You wanna-
Test and catch,
no,
but,
I want something really lethal, house
people
cats
should
also.
be
kill
aware.
things. No, absolutely.
I mean, these companies also recommend patching up holes and stuff like that. We've done a lot of that, so there's hardly any mice getting in our house anymore. And a couple that do. I don't want them dying in my wall.
That's why I don't use poison. That's why I don't use poison.
Before we were, let's put it
Um,
that way.
Yeah, trap.
Can we do correspondence if we need to? I don't know if we need to, but,
Yeah.
and then
It's just very quick. In December, we had a letter from someone that had put in a plan that they asked DES, and we commented on, asked, you know, they were way off on the size of what they wanted to do, and there wasn't any stormwater runoff and so forth. Well, they reapplied and they just got another letter that tells them they're going to allow them to do it. They have their measurements and everything correct now, but there are, let's see, what's it say here? Yeah, they have permit conditions, which they have to, specific conditions they have to follow. There are 5 of them. So anyways, DES took care of it and they put a red stamp on the top to note the conditions.
Yeah.
So that was taken care of. And then there's just one other thing, it's the Laramie Farms Development has,
oh, yeah.
applied for, let's see, to do a, what is it word? Alter an existing driveway, an existing gravel driveway. That's what they've applied for, you know where the Laramie Farms project is. And, it doesn't give any description of how they plan to alter that. Does that come up in other zoning or planning or? But, is
So-
asking to alter a
Yeah.
driveway?
So in New Hampshire, when you regrade anything, you have to, like in a project, like you have to get an alteration of terrain permit. It's a very controlled process with a lot of calculations. And like when you talk about stormwater runoff, so it's very well controlled through DES. They've told us that they've actually been very like good about telling you, like, one of our next steps is gonna be to apply for this, because as regular humans, we don't live through this process ever. So
Well,
they
we
told
went
us
and
this stuff
visited
is
other.
coming. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And so they've mentioned the alteration of terrain quite a few times. So yeah, that's just a normal
But I
part
was
of the process.
surprised that, you know, they haven't had to
Do they need
plan
more
just about
parking
how
spaces?
much they're going to alter it. They've got to alter it quite a bit.
There's a rumor out there that they need more parking spaces for this development. Is that true?
I mean, that's their business. Like there's the town has rules that are current rules. There's zoning ordinance changes proposed having nothing to do with that, but just in general. So, but they're gonna have to comply with whatever town. I mean, there's lots of rumors. I don't really worry about it. That's the developer it's their business. As long as for me, like they came to us, they worked with us. We have to be mindful of that, but yeah, if there was an issue, I'm sure an actual issue, it would come out of one of these meetings.
So-
They're very, I will tell you, in terms of the process, what they did tell us, on select board, which made a lot of sense, was that while they know what their process is, and obviously they work to probably a Gantt chart, they don't go do the next step because it's very expensive before they hit these milestones.
Yeah.
So when we gave our feedback, and we gave very detailed feedback on what they had agreed with us on, about those 10 crossings on the finger wetlands, remember? And then that went forward to, because we had to make that recommendation to, was it zoning planning? My brain's right now. And then that had a hearing period, whether or not it was gonna get appealed, but that, you know, that they're kind of working through all those different.
Because the second one hasn't been settled yet, is it the one with desserts?
Did
Did they appeal?
did they hire a lawyer and go to court again? I
don't know.
can't, I honestly,
know there was.
that one, that notice period lapsed, right?
So.
So I
But
think
that would have nothing to do with them applying. for-
I'm sorry, I do know. I'm very overtired. It went so you can ask for a rehearing, right?
Yes.
And it went for rehearing, And they found that they applied their rules fairly correctly, whatever. I'm wickedly summarizing and taking absolute liberty with my summary. But, and then there's a period after that, where they can file with the court, and that period has ended. So what.
So now they're moving on.
Yeah, what we asked to have incorporated moves forward intact.
Okay,
Those were the ones that you,
I wonder if they've
Okay.
applied to DES yet.
For-
Because we'll,
what do you
we'll
mean, what
hear
did they
about
apply?
that when they get to that point.
what do you mean
Yeah.
applied to DES? That was an application. Impact wetland, those finger, that was an application, like the variance, you're saying.
Yeah.
To go, okay, okay.
Because we'll
Yeah.
hear about, the DES will contact us again.
Mhm. Alteration of terrain has to do with DES.
Does anyone else have
It-
any other business?
Now motion to adjourn.
We're talking about it. You know, we have a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
opinions to
Yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
and I hate to cut you off.
No, no, absolutely. It's that
I
it
hate
starts so late and
Yeah.
like it's not that I want to hang out with you guys. I didn't have the kind of day that provided food in the middle of it. And yesterday, before, was it Tuesday, I got M&Ms and chips for four.
You're not
Is there a
diabetic, are you?
second for that motion?
Second. Yeah.
You're saying-
All in favor?
Okay.
I,
and I didn't leave early.
I'm glad you could come tonight.
yeah.
You didn't like the way that was worded, did you? I just
No,
laughed.
no,
I
thought-
just left. You didn't like the topic at the time.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was,
Yeah,
and that's normal.
you just stood out.
But
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
Sorry. That one.
Because I'm saying.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
what is,